Dreaming. All mammals, all birds, and many reptiles, amphibians, and fish sleep. Many dream. Dogs do, for example. There are two types of dream. Ordinary dream, in which one only remembers the dream, if at all, once you have woken up. And a lucid dream, in which you become conscious in the dream, and are thus able to both direct and remember the entire dream. And in this video, we examine the ordinary dream. Body management. During sleep, the body repairs itself. Wounds are healed. The immune system works its wonders, fighting pathogens, viruses and bacteria. Nerves are repaired and bones healed. All this takes place in deep sleep. In this respect, there is almost a case for saying that a coma is just a very, very deep sleep, prompted by the need for major body repair work. Needless to say, without this deep sleep, the body has no chance of ever repairing itself or of fighting disease. Mind management. If the mind management tasks are not completed successfully, you can end up dog-tired, confused, and mentally weary. Dementia may be being caused by lack of sleep or disturbed sleep. Some sleeping pills, by putting you into a dreamless sleep, almost comatose, can have this effect. In mammals, a descending muscular atonia is seen, meaning that you become semi-paralyzed. Paralysis helps protect you from acting on dreams as if they were real. During mind management, our memory is reorganized. We learn from accumulated perceptions. Old and used memories get archived. The data in memory gets reorganized and reindexed, and other mind-related tasks occur. Rapid eye movement sleep, or REM sleep, accounts for 20 to 25% of the total sleep time in most human adults. The right hemisphere becomes highly active during REM sleep. It is when we get access to the spiritual world at large. The Grieg Aranyaka Upanishad. When a man is asleep, his Atman takes the consciousness of the several senses and goes to rest with them on the Supreme Spirit who is in the human heart. When all the senses are quiet, the man is said to be asleep. Then the Atman holds the powers of life, breath, voice, eye, ear and mind, and they rest in quietness. When the Atman is in the land of dreams, then all the worlds belong to the soul. A man can be a great king or a great barman and live in conditions high or low. And even as a great king of this earth takes his attendants with him and goes about his dominions wherever he desires, so the Atman of man takes the powers of life with him and wanders in the land of dreams according to his desires. Mary Arnold Forster. Learning Dreams. Mrs. Arnold Foster kept a detailed record of her dreams and produced one of the first accessible and in-depth books on what she had observed. The book covers both lucid dreaming and ordinary dreaming, and we have provided the enhanced audiobook on YouTube in our guest video playlist. The original book can be difficult to find. As such, the audiobook, although longer and with added citations from other people, may provide an alternative. The following is about dreams and is from her book, and it describes learning dreams, dreams that are simply the end result of the learning process. Mrs. H. O. Arnold Foster, Studies on Dreams. I have very carefully recorded my dreams, and I find that the greater number of them are clearly suggested or modified by whatever has been the dominant thought or chief interest at that time. For instance, in my records of the dreams during the period from August to December 1914, and also in 1915, 1916 and 17, I find that a very large proportion of them were founded on or were modified by the war, which was the natural preoccupation of all minds during those months and years. The anxieties that it involved, the local activities connected with the war, the organisation for the housing and care of war refugees, these thoughts seem to have suggested the greater number of my dreams, or to have worked their way into their fabric. Besides dreams, which arise from the predominant thought of the day, there are others which have their origin in any book that we are reading, especially if it be read late at night. The tenor of the book will probably be greatly altered in the dream, for the dream mind will seize upon some problem suggested in its pages and will work it out afresh after its own manner. It may, for instance, take the outline of a story, transforming it completely and evoking something so different from the original that it is hardly to be recognised. There are other dreams which grow out of some remembered word or name, a place name very often. A name which you may have forgotten by day starts into prominence when the control of the normal mind ceases. Such a name or word is often the point of crystallization from which a dream of adventure will radiate. In such a dream, each fresh incident that occurs suggests another, and this in turn suggests some other associated idea or fragment of memory. All these float up from the reserves where thousands of remote, half-forgotten impressions must be stored away. The dream mind connects them all together and strings them into a whole, elaborating each incident and each memory in turn. Our intelligence, which, as Monsieur Bergson says, truly does not surrender its reasoning faculty during sleep, insists all the time on finding explanations for every apparent discrepancy, bridging over the gaps. Dreams of invention and inspiration. Dreams have been the source of a considerable number of inventions, and blue sky thinking or inner thought. Indeed, to say it was only a dream misses just how important dreams have been to a great number of famous folk. L.S. Vygotsky, in Thoughts and Language, defined inner speech or inner thought in this way. Inner speech is speech without words. It is not the interior aspect of external speech. It is a function in itself. While in external speech, thought is embodied in words, in inner speech, words die as they bring forth thought. Inner speech is to a large extent thinking in pure meanings. Niels Bohr. In our guest video playlist, we have a video of a talk Niels Bohr gave to the Frontiers of Science Foundation, Oklahoma, in 1957. It provides some insight into his thinking not long after he retired. The description section provides a link to the biography on our website. And his dream, in his student days, has been enormously influential in the direction physics has taken. Dr. Shafika Karagula, a breakthrough to creativity. Niels Bohr, the well-known atomic scientist, had a strange dream in his student days. He dreamed that he was on a sun, which consisted of burning gas. There were planets that moved swiftly around the sun, attracted by thin filaments. When he awoke, he had the model of the atom. However, dreams need very careful interpretation. And Bohr realised by the time he retired that his interpretation needed a more metaphysical explanation. Indeed, it is a warning to us all not to take dreams literally, as without exception, the symbolic content always overrides any literal meaning. Thomas Edison. Edison is the fourth most prolific inventor in history, holding 1,093 US patents in his name. We have a guest video in the playlist describing his achievements. Edison not only invented things, his inventions established major new industries worldwide, notably electric light and power utilities, sound recording and motion pictures. And Edison deliberately used dreams to come up with inventions and solve problems. He combined dreams with the sort of hypnagogic approach used by people such as Salvador Dali, Sir Hubert Wilkins and Harold M. Sherman. Thoughts through space. Thomas Edison, asked how he invented, said he had trained himself to think in terms of mental pictures. He always saw a picture in mind of what he wanted to invent before he knew how to do it. Edison assimilated all the known facts on a subject with his conscious mind, then turned them over to his subconscious, and went to sleep on a cot which he kept in his laboratory. Then he followed the hunches his subconscious gave him when he awakened, and often returned to consciousness with the entire solution or idea for many of his inventions. Paul McCartney. The next video in our guest playlist has Paul McCartney himself describing the dream that resulted in the song Yesterday. Beethoven. Paul is not the only composer to obtain inspiration from dreams. Beethoven did too. D. Jablo Hirschman and Dr. Julian Lieb. Manic depression and creativity. Beethoven had flights of creative ideas in the middle of the night, and thus inspired, could not go back to sleep until he had written them down. James Watt. Our next example describes James Watt, the Scottish inventor and engineer. Some of his most famous inventions were obtained from revelations, visions that could occur in broad daylight, from Ingo Swann to Kiss the Earth Goodbye. One Sunday afternoon, in May 1765, James Watt was strolling along in a Glasgow park, allowing his consciousness to fluctuate all over the place. he suffered a vision in which he saw a steam engine in all its working detail. The next day he built it, complete in less than 12 hours, harnessing, for better or worse, and some say worse, the power of steam, and giving impetus to the Industrial Revolution. A stone in Glasgow Green marks this spot where the Industrial Revolution really began. But he also had dreams, where solutions came to him in the dream. Herbert Greenhouse, Premonitions, A Leap into the Future, 1971. James Watt had a problem. The standard process for making lead shot for shotguns was to cut and chop metal, a costly procedure, and Watt thought a simpler method might be found. One night he had a dream that returned several times. He was walking through a storm, but instead of rain he was showered with tiny lead pellets. Awakening, he realized that molten lead falling through the air would harden into small spheres. Watt went to a nearby church, which had a water-filled moat at its base. Here he melted several pounds of lead and flung it from the bell tower. Then he ran downstairs and scooped the tiny lead pellets from the bottom of the moat. The dream had dramatised the future of the lead shot industry, which was revolutionised by the process. Sir Thomas Browne. Sir Thomas Browne, 1605 to 1682, was a writer, poet, philosopher and scientist who had wide learning in medicine, religion, science and the esoteric. He is described as a consummate literary craftsman with a rich, unusual prose, and he could devise literary works in his dreams. Sir Thomas Browne, 1605 to 1682, Religio Medici. Yet in one dream I can compose a whole comedy. Behold the action, apprehend the jests, and laugh myself awake at the conceits thereof. William Blake. We have a guest video in the playlist for those unfamiliar with William Blake, The Legacy of William Blake with James Tunney. But it is clear that Blake experienced all sorts of spiritual experiences, hallucinations, vivid visions, sudden flashes of insight, and dreams, usually inspirational dreams. But he also had dreams that involved out-of-body travelling. T.J. Clarke. A Snake Aflame. London Review of Books. Volume 37, Number 3, 5th of February 2015. Blake travelled in his dreams to Egypt and Assyria, and came across vast paintings on temple walls. Those were wonderful originals, for some of them 100 feet in height. Some were painted as pictures, and some carved as basso-relievos. The artist wishes it was now the fashion to make such monuments, and then he should no doubt have having a national commission to execute those two pictures that he has in mind, on a scale that is suitable to the grandeur of the nation, in high-finished fresco, where the colours would be as pure and as permanent as precious stones. In summary, although lucid dreaming can be entertaining, it would appear that too little is made of the value of dreaming itself. It needs no drugs, It heals and refreshes, and it can provide us with inspiration, answers to problems, wisdom, and clarity. And yet ask a person why they awoke suddenly, and many dismiss the experience by saying, "Oh, it was only a dream." J. Allen Hobson was a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. He dedicated much of his career to exploring the neurophysiology of dreaming and wrote many books on the topic, including Dreams Freud Never Had, Dreaming, A Short Introduction, and The Dreaming Brain. He believes that dreaming may be our most creative conscious state. J. Allen Hobson. I think it's creative by definition. Dreaming is not an escape from waking, it's a preparation for waking. So if you are creatively inclined, then you certainly ought to pay attention to the dream state. Dreams invent things that you never thought of, that you never saw. Dreaming is not a replay of waking memories. It's never that. It may include things that happen to you during the day, but most of what you dream, you have never seen. Dreams don't hold any deep significance for, say, decoding your childhood. It's deeper than your childhood. That's a trivialization of the subject. It's not about personal history. How can creative individuals derive more inspiration from dreams? Keep a dream journal. Put a pencil and paper, or better yet a bound journal, beside your bed. Tell yourself before you go to sleep that you're probably going to have about an hour and a half worth of dreams that you'd like to tune in on, and it will happen. All of this comes packaged with the genes. It's amazing. Everybody has access to this, not just creative people. What's most important is to recognize that this is natural. It's nothing exotic. It's not something you need to do handstands to achieve. It's just there. Thomas Lovell Beddoes, from Dream Peddler. If there were dreams to sell, what would you buy? Some cost a passing bell, some a light sigh that shakes from life's fresh crown only a rose leaf down. If there were dreams to sell, merry and sad to tell, and the crier rung the bell, what would you buy?